Is there a trade-off when we go with your marketing scheme, or can you still win in the short term?
That's a very interesting question, and you first have to think about what your definition for profit is, right? So if you're asking, can you make as much money as quickly as possible? Well, behaving in a way that takes into consideration a long-term point of view is ridiculous, right? You get while the getting's good. You jack up prices as soon as you can. You convince people to buy something that's not worthwhile. You cut corners wherever you can, and you'll make money in a year, way more money in a year than someone else might. Right? So if your definition for profit is how much money can I make in the shortest amount of time, so in a short time frame, well, of course, the con artist, the scammer, is far more likely to make more money on the short term. But what they're trading for that is risk, right? The risk of, if they're discovered, for people to be very angry at them. Their risk for their reputation to be ruined. They're risking that the money that they make now, it better be a good score. They better rob the bank with the best score, because they might not be able to rob a bank in the future.
Hey there, folks. This is Peter Hartman here with another installment of Tom Hartman, who's going to be talking about adventure marketing. Tom Hartman, how are you doing?
Great, man. How's it going, Peter?
It's going good. I like saying your full name like I don't know you, Tom Hartman.
I know. Peter. It sounds like a stranger.
So you've been having a lot of fun talking about adventure marketing. There's a talk you gave online. The last video we did was about word of mouth, which I understand is at the core of your marketing principles. I want to know, like, why do you want to talk about adventure marketing? Like, how is this different than other marketing concepts out there?
Okay, so I mean, there are tons of marketing ideas out there, right? For anything from a drip marketing to push notification marketing to geolocation marketing to SEO marketing, social media marketing. There's an adjective marketing for everything out there. Basically, anything that's ever shown to have any sort of success, convincing someone even temporarily to perform an action that you want them to do, they call it that marketing. The reason I came up with adventure marketing is that really it's a framework I have for judging between good things and bad things, like good behaviors and bad behaviors. But I wrap it up under the umbrella of adventure marketing, so people have this conceptual, like, they have this box. Okay, I could put it in here. Tom is talking about this for business, how to get more, how to be more successful at business. But it really works for all kinds of different things.
Is the term adventure meaningful to you in any way? Like, why adventure? Like, could you have just picked any adjectives?
No. So I really like adventure because what I'm trying to get to is idea of, well, I guess I'll just dive right in. A lot of people, they see the world as this is the real world that they live in, and then their imagination or concepts are inside like imaginary land. Right. So, for example, what happens today is real, and what happens in the future is potential. Well, it's actually very useful in many aspects of your life to sort of flip that idea, that what happens in the future, in your imagination, in concepts and ideas, that those things are real. And what you are experiencing now, that this is the imaginary world, like this is the story that you're in, and that everything that you're doing, you're sort of like pulling yourself towards an idealized version. So if you can imagine if someone's exercising, right? They have this idealized version in their mind of the sort of body they want to have, or stamina they want to have, or what have you. And what they're doing is doing whatever they can in order to move in that direction. Now, they might never achieve this perfected form of it. In fact, this perfected form that they have in their mind might constantly evolve as they get closer and closer to their idea, right? It might be this moving goalpost. But what happens is that the idealized version of it pulls you forward. It's what makes you want to have seek out relationships, even if you had bad relationships in the past. You have this idealized version of what a good relationship would be like. Or a business, right? A business has this idea when they start. They're like, well, this is not what my business will stay like. I imagine that there's a future version of it that's bigger or better or more profitable or more successful, and whatever, by whatever parameters the person has. So adventure marketing sort of taps into this idea that what you're doing is that you need a series of heuristics. You need a framework to help you navigate this world of uncertainty, so that you're more likely to move towards the idealized version that you're looking for. And that's an adventure, right? A hero goes through an adventure as they go from whatever ordinary world that they're in through a challenge and then come out the other side better than they were before.
That's interesting. Very well said. So you want us all to sort of embark on the adventure of marketing, and I imagine you're giving us the tools with which we can do this, most efficiently.
Yeah, so it's not for everyone. Adventure marketing, I would never say that every single person or every single freelancer, employer, or business should adopt adventure marketing. Adventure marketing is for a very specific type of mentality, a very specific type of architect. Now, some companies are let's speak in the vernacular of stories, right? Some companies are the heroes of their story. They are the, if it's a nonprofit organization, some activist organization, some company that feels like they're making changes in the world, that they're the ones who are innovating or what have you. The company might see itself as the hero in their tale, and they're the ones going, taking the new opportunity. They're the ones going through all the challenges that a hero normally goes through in a story and then comes out the other side better than they were before. But adventure marketing is not like that. Adventure marketing is for companies or individuals or what have you who see themselves as a type of side character to the hero, and the hero to them is their customer, right? They are on the side. They are the archetype is called the wise old man, the sage. They are the character on the side who, as the hero is moving towards their goal, you as an adventure marketer, you're on the side and you have a tool or information that might be useful to the hero in order to help them achieve their goal. So, for example,
wait, hang on. You said something pretty tantalizing there. You just glossed over it. You can tell there's a lot of good information in your head, and the rest of us aren't privy to it. What's this wise old man archetype?
All right, so think of a traditional, let's say, blockbuster movie, a traditional story. You have a hero, right? They're going about their day in their ordinary life. Then something happens that an opportunity presents themselves, right? They might go on a quest. They might decide they want to fall in love. They might something might be happening to the planet. Whatever. There's a challenge that they have to face. Then they embark on the challenge. As they embark on the challenge, there are difficulties that they encounter, and in these difficulties, they either have to resort to their own strengths in order to solve it, right? Hercules might have to find himself stronger than he was before, in order to lift a heavy burden, or they might get a tool, right? They might get an Excalibur sword, they might get a staff, they might get a ring that gives them additional powers that they didn't have before. Now, oftentimes in stories, there's a type of character. There are different types of characters, right? You have the villain, you have the sidekick, you have the love interest, you have all kinds of different characters who fulfill certain roles in traditional stories. One of those roles is the wise old man. It could be wise old woman. It's just the term for this concept, where you have this person who the hero meets as they're going along their path. There's someone who's off the path, this wise person who is able to provide the hero with information or a tool that the hero didn't have before, that actually sets them, it makes it more likely that they'll succeed. So think of Gandalf in Lord of the Rings, or Dumbledore. Think of the Merovingian in The Matrix. There's all kinds of these characters who are usually on the side of the road, the wise old man who provides a tool or information. So adventure marketing.
In The Matrix, there's also the wise old woman, right? The black lady the Oracle. Does she fill that role as well? I don't know. I'm just trying to think of a woman who fills the wise old man.
Yes, absolutely. Oracle can fulfill this the wise old man on the side of the road. I got a delivery here. I'll just let it be. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, if you gotta go get your delivery, go ahead and get it.
Okay, give me 1 second.
Yep. All right, so while Tom is going to enter his delivery at the door, I just want to let you know that he did give a talk about adventure marketing. You can actually watch that full talk on our YouTube channel over on youtube.com/happyforachange. I think it's a talk worth listening to. I have a talk there called Heroic Entrepreneurship, but you want to listen to Tom's, it's called The Gold Bar Conundrum. It's very interesting. Everybody who was there had a really fun time. He dives into this topic a little bit more, but you will be hearing more about adventure marketing in the video series that we're doing here on Jumpstart. Our purpose with this video series is to help entrepreneurs, help businesses to do better. We want to sort of change the dynamic of how business works in our world. We want to move forward with principles that are, holistic, that are complementary, that actually help us, that doesn't encourage us to the worst of our nature. And so, adventure marketing and heroic entrepreneurship is part of that. If you like what you're seeing, definitely subscribe to the channel because we got more videos on the topic here for you. We're going to see if Tom's back.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So you were talking about the wise old man or the wise old woman, the sage who provides guidance along the way.
Exactly.
Take it away.
Yeah. So actually, in far future videos, once we really cover the details of adventure marketing, I'll actually show you how to spot how to spot other ones of these archetypes. In the business world, right? So there are the villains out there, right? You have the tricksters and the antagonists, and you have all kinds of different types of roles that are out there. So just like you have hero companies as well. But I really like adventure marketing because I see myself as as a wise old man. I like being the person. I'm not looking to be the hero. I'm looking to help the hero achieve their goal because I want to live in a world where the hero is successful. And look, we're saying hero, it doesn't have to be anything too grandiose, right? If someone is looking to get into shape and they want to go to the gym, right? The trainer at the gym is not the hero of the story, right? They're helping the hero achieve their goal, and they help them to keep them on track. To me, certain gyms should follow the adventure marketing type because if they understand that they're not the hero, that they're there in order to guide the hero along their journey, then it makes sense to know, well, where are they meeting the hero on their journey? Are they meeting them at the beginning when they're first facing the challenge? Are they meeting them right at the point of no return where the person has been training for a while and they feel like they have to either quit or continue? Are they meeting them in the aftermath, right? Where the hero has, the reason they came to the gym is because they already beat, let's say, cancer or what have you, or diabetes, and now this is their victory lap that they're going to get in shape as a present to themselves, right? If you know where you're meeting the hero along their journey, it helps you formulate how you're going to speak to them and how you're going to present your offering, your product.
I really like that you keep referring to customers or clients as heroes. You don't really. It's definitely the opposite of treating them like suckers, like the con artist tactics might do. So,
and I think it complements your whole thing about heroic entrepreneurship. I laughed because you came up with heroic entrepreneurship and I came up with adventure marketing separately. Like it just so happened that we were thinking about similar things. But for you, the entrepreneur is the one who, the intrepid entrepreneur is going into the void of uncertainty and is fighting the dragon of chaos and needs a sort of truth and shield of integrity in order to succeed, right? The entrepreneur is facing a dragon, whereas a business person, right? We talked about it in the previous video, the difference between like a business person who's like reproducing an idea or even entrepreneur. If you see yourself as the wise old man, well, what your goal is to provide the sword of truth, right? You're Merlin, you're given the sword, you're providing the opportunity for the hero to get the sword because you want them to go slay the dragon. And I like that.
I talk about I talk about heroic entrepreneurship in the sense that, everything that we're doing, whatever you put your hands to, whatever you're creating, to create it with the mindset of how this will affect the world, humanity as a whole in the future, right? Because what we're doing is not in isolation. It's not just you living this life. You're living this life in collaboration and in honor of everyone else that you're living with and that will live in the future. So, put into practice actions, behaviors, words, product, services that will actually help the future. Your adventure marketing is it's trying to put in ethical ways of marketing to people. So in that way, it's similar to my heroic entrepreneurship. But because you put the client, the customer as the hero, it's far more. It's entirely service based, whereas my idea is still sort of self-interested, right? You still want to achieve your goals as the hero, whereas your goal is not necessarily the marketing, but it's actually helping the hero.
Yeah,
or
and
the
in
heroine.
both our scenarios, I think it's important to make the distinction that ethics actually becomes a byproduct, right? We talked often, you and I, about the idea of any system that does not inherently deal with corruption, that doesn't have a way of slowing or mitigating corruption in some way, is doomed to failure, or at least doomed to failure quickly, right? You have to understand that this tendency towards corruption in any type of system exists, right? If it's just entropy in a system, if it's just gunk inside of an engine, if it's just how people who see that there's power somewhere want to corrupt it, want to use it for their own gains, there's always this element of corruption. And so ethics is one of those things. I will talk about it in future videos when we talk about transparency for adventure marketing. You want ethics to come out of it, or the way that you treat people to be a byproduct. You want a byproduct of your process to be that you are more likely to be a good member of your community. And the way you do that, the easiest way to do that is to think of yourself. Think of whatever you're doing in 3 different time horizons, right? There's the immediate thing you're doing now, the thing you're doing, the short term, the medium term, and the long term, right? Often, corruption comes from not having a long-term view, right? If you don't have a view that's, okay, how do my actions affect the world 100 years out, right? If you don't have that mentality, literally longer than my own lifetime, well, then if it's shorter than that, then you'll make decisions that are more expedient for you. But as soon as you include, let's say, 100 years, 200 years, well, then you include you, your descendants, the community that you're in, right? You make decisions that'll be good for that as well, because it serves you, right? Your definition, as you've said multiple times, your definition expands to include your community once you have a longer time frame. And so when you were talking about heroic entrepreneurship in your talk, you talked about it in terms of, look, it's difficult what you're doing, right? You're doing something that's inherently difficult. You can go do something that's easier. Like, you're doing this because you're compelled to do it. And you're compelled to do it because you're being called by something, this idealized thing in the future that you are sort of you're pulled towards to do it. But if you lose sight of that, right? If you feel the calling of it, but you don't understand that it's a calling of the future and that you have to work in order to get it, you could be in despair. But once you put into context what you're doing, then it re-energizes you. It makes you more likely to continue what you're doing. And in venture marketing, if you have these 3 different time frames, well, your behavior, the behavior that you exhibit as a CEO, as a business owner, as a freelancer, as an employee, even, you don't even have to have your own company, will take into account what's good for you now, what's good for us in the midterm, and what's good for everyone in the long term. And automatically that generates a type of ethics. You don't need to specifically have, an ethics division if you have those timeframes in mind.
I took us off point just a little bit with asking for clarification about the wise old man archetype, but I do want to ask, because you brought up short term and long term, do you think that in venture marketing, compared to other type of, let's say another type of marketing scheme that is more short term oriented, that is less ethical, do you think that venture marketing won't be as profitable in the short term, but will be in long term? Or can it also be profitable in the short term? Because when we talk about this, I get the sense, and when I hear it, that it should be profitable, more profitable than nefarious marketing practices. It should be more profitable, especially in this day and age with the internet, to do something like adventure marketing, both in the short term and the long term. So which one do you think? Is there a trade-off when we go with your marketing scheme, or can you still win in the short term?
That's a very interesting question. And you first have to think about what your definition for profit is, right? So if you're asking, can you make as much money as quickly as possible? Well, behaving in a way that takes into consideration a long-term point of view is ridiculous, right? You get while the getting's good. You jack up prices as soon as you can. You convince people to buy something that's not worthwhile. You cut corners wherever you can, and you'll make money in a year, way more money in a year than someone else might, right? So if your definition for profit is how much money can I make in the shortest amount of time, so in a short time frame, well, of course, the con artist is the scammer is far more likely to make more money on the short term. But what they're trading for that is risk, right? The risk of, if they're discovered, for people to be very angry at them. The risk for their reputation to be ruined. They're risking that the money that they make now, it better be a good score. They better rob the bank with the best score, because they might not be able to rob a bank in the future. So if you go, okay, yeah, I'll take on that enormous amount of risk now for the immediate gain, then you might say that that's profitable. And a lot of people might see things that way, either in the long term or short term. But if you consider the idea of risk, that you want to minimize the risk, right? You want to, so for example, there's a company makes a product, and there's a profit margin on that product. Some companies are fine with the idea of having a negative margin, right? They're losing money on every product because they're hoping later on at scale they'll be able to get more people that'll cover the loss that they're getting per product. That eventually at scale they'll make more money. But venture marketing says not to do that. Venture marketing says build a product in such a way, offer a service in such a way that right from the first thing that you sell, you have a profit margin, right? A profit margin that's enough for you to decide that it's worthwhile for you to continue to do this again. So it might be a 1% margin, right? It might not be a huge profit margin, but because you netted a gain, well, you've increased your net worth. You have, even if it's by a little bit, you have more understanding of this problem, and you're more likely to be able to improve your value offering, your value proposition in the future. What this does is that it mitigates risk, right? You're not taking this big leap forward. You're not borrowing $500,000 from the bank in order to bang this idea out and hope that you do it within 2 years. You're incrementally moving yourself forward. And that sort of compounded return is actually far more profitable down the line. It's the difference between being rich and being wealthy. You can easily lose rich temporary gains, but wealth is generating cash flow, generating returns, generating know-how and competence over time. And so that to me is far more profitable than short-term monetary gain.
That's interesting that you say that. I like to talk about in my sessions, in my meetups, that criminals, like, you wonder why would a criminal be a criminal? Why would a person steal a car? And why do criminals commit acts so poorly? Why are their criminal acts so likely to get them caught, right? Most criminals, given enough time, will get caught. It's because in order to be a criminal, you have to be a short-term thinker, right? It's typical of most criminals to be short-term thinking. Rob the liquor store with a gun at gunpoint. You get scared, so you shoot the person behind the counter sees your face behind the mask, so you shoot them. It's like, that was a short-term solution, but that won't help you in the long term. Well, people who adopt criminal tactics, whether it's in marketing and business or whatever, they tend to be short-term thinkers. And though it might be more profitable in the short term, you might want to lay your riches in the long term, so that you can accumulate wealth, as opposed to just riches that can be lost. Yeah.
So that's perfect. So let's talk about the 3 principles that are the core of adventure marketing, because that'll give us some of the terms that I'm going to want to use in order to discuss this a little bit further.
Sure.
Right. So the idea is that, I won't go through all the details of how we came to these principles. If you want a little bit more information on that, you can go on my website, tomhartman.ca, and there's I'm putting up articles there that explain more in depth. I don't bore anyone with how I came to these conclusions. Suffice to say that I went through a lot of companies, a lot of different tactics, and I boiled down the principles that actually long-term successful companies and even employees or freelancers use in order to be successful, and that is value, transparency, and reputation. Right? So that's value, transparency, and reputation. What do I mean by that? Because there's all kinds of connotations to this. Value is you're solving a problem. Your business is there to solve a problem, and the better you solve that problem, the more efficiently you solve that problem, the better the value is for your company. So that goes without saying. Everyone knows that a business is solving the problem. Transparency I don't mean radical transparency. I don't mean corporate transparency. I don't mean all the buzzwords for transparency. Transparency is two things. Can I accurately predict what you will do, you or your company will do under so-and-so circumstance? Are you predictable, right? So are you going to do what you say you're going to do? Anyways, we'll go into details later on, but there's that. And then the other aspect of transparency is, if I find out more details about how you're behaving, am I more likely to want to engage with you or not? Right? Are you being deceptive in any way? That are you doing any sort of, and so for example, a marketing tactic for that would be, your phone is listening to you, let's say, right? And you find out that ABC company is accessing the personal information from you, from your phone or from your internet browsing history or whatever, without you really realizing just how much they had. Well, you might be less likely to buy a product from that company now that you feel that your privacy has been invaded, right? So if that's part of what transparency is. And the third thing for reputation is, how have you behaved in the past? Now, I don't mean that your past behavior has to be pristine. Right, how you dealt with customers in the past and what your personal history is. What it does mean, though, is that you're acknowledging what you've done in the past, that the clients that you've had in the past, that you've dealt with, the interactions that you've had are visible, known, and help to shore up this whole picture of who you are and who your businesses are. So this value, transparency, and reputation really covers the past, present, and future. And so value is present, transparency is future, and reputation is past. And it gives like this holistic view of your company. And the interplay between these three principles are what generate what we talked in a previous video about, called word of mouth. You cannot buy word of mouth. There's no such thing. I know there's word of mouth marketing, but you cannot buy it. It can only, and it's one of my favorite lines from The Matrix, it can only be given. It cannot be taken, right? And so the only way you can generate word of mouth is from what I've seen, by the interplay of value, reputation, and transparency. And the better these work
It sounds
together,
like you're talking,
more word of mouth you have.
sounds like, sorry for interrupting you, but it sounds like you're talking about love. You can't buy love. I mean,
yes,
you can buy love, but it's
exactly
not exactly love.
That's exactly that. So let's say you're dating, right? You cannot convince someone to love you, right? That's not how it goes.
You could, but you wouldn't really trust it, right?
Well,
like they can perform the actions.
If you can't trust it, it's not, to you, it's not love, right?
Yeah.
If you perceive it as love, it's also comes with this idea of trustworthiness. It's not just longing, it's love.
True.
And so
True.
you have to provide some sort of value, right? There's something that you are providing to the other person that is valuable, right? Emotional or whatever it is. There's a value proposition that you come to with another human being. Yes, you should spend your life with me. Yes, you should spend your time with me. You have a transparency, right? If you have a guiding principle, a guiding light that you are subject to, right? If you, for example, you care about the relationship more than you care about any sub-component of the relationship, where you go on vacation and what kind of clothes you wear and what have you. If you care about the success of the relationship, then you are far less likely to argue in any acrimonious way, because you'll be like, well, I'm not going to say or do anything that will has a likelihood of damaging this relationship, because that's what I care about. And if the other person knows that, well, then your future actions are predictable. They know if they made a mistake, right, they can come to you because you care about the relationship more than you care about saying "I told you so" or being right or what have you. And reputation, how you've behaved in the past, matters a lot. If it doesn't matter if you've left a trail of broken hearts or everyone that you've ever been with loves you. It doesn't matter if you've never had a relationship before or what have you. But if the person knows how you've behaved in the past, then they could put into context what you're doing now and what you're likely to do in the future. So it's just like love. Love is a type of word of mouth. In fact, I say word of mouth, but like I said in my previous video, word of mouth is just the idiom for worth. Worth is, what would I trade time and effort for? Like, how much time and effort would I trade for this thing? That's what it is. And it's a type of appreciation. I appreciate this so much so that I'm willing to give it this much time, this much effort, or this much money. And love is like that. I appreciate this so much that I'm willing to give up this much time that I could be doing something else, either being with this person or doing something for that person.
And whatever you appreciate increases with value, right? Like even in financial terms, when your house appreciates, it's increasing with value,
That's
right?
exactly
When your
right.
bank account increases with value. Whenever you appreciate something, increases with value, and then I suppose it inspires you and motivates you to spread that to other people that you value and care about, because you want to increase their life with value, just like your life has been increased with value. Your life has been
Exactly.
appreciated.
That's right. You gain another financial term. You gain interest. You accrue interest, right? So as you participate in things that you love, as you invest in the things that you love, you gain interest. You are more interested in the thing. Anyways, this it's the that's why the I love so much. Stumble upon it. It took me a while to figure it out, but that word of mouth, targeted word of mouth, is like, how do I make myself lovable, right? That's what you were just saying. That's how you actually. That's a good analogy for it. So
Good.
these are the three terms I want to talk about, because we were, and although I was saying that values present, transparency is the future, and reputation is the past. Every single one of those principles actually has their own past, present, and future for it. So, for example, when you're dealing with a value, you're solving a problem. So, let's say you're building a bridge, right? Your company, you're building a bridge. Well, if you're building the bridge just because you want to get the contract and as much money as you can right now, and you don't really care about the bridge so much, well, then you have this mismatch, right? You care about making money, but the hero, the client, we'll call them the hero, cares about the be able to use the bridge. But if you're cutting corners on this bridge, and the bridge is likely to collapse, or people are not impressed with the bridge, and it makes it less likely for you to build a bridge in the future, well, then you have this mismatch in value. But if you focus on value, of you go, okay, I need the bridge to be affordable to make now, but I need it to last as long as possible. I'm going to build a bridge that lasts for 100 years. Well, you'll build it differently, right? You'll come at it from a different perspective, and the only way you'll sacrifice the immediate profit, the cutting of the corners for the bridge, is if you have in transparency, you have this guide and light. Your behavior is subject to more than just the profit. It's subject to, let's say, doing a good job, or joining communities, or whatever it is. You have some sort of guiding principle that says building this bridge not only satisfies the need of getting from point A to point B, but it satisfies this overarching thing of being useful to the community, let's say. And reputation, if you care about your reputation, if you invest in your reputation, you'll say, not only does building this bridge solve the problem, not only is it demonstrating that I care about something larger than even just building a bridge, but it matters that I do this properly, because this becomes a data point in my reputation, so that next time I have to do something, next time I have to build a bridge, I am more likely to get that task. So, I'm more likely to use the information that I learned from building this bridge in order to make a better one. I have a new opportunity and new people to help, and my community is bigger than it was before, and all that sort of thing. So, and then the bridge, if it's well built and loved, and people respect you for building it, well, then they are far more likely to talk about you in a positive way, which is word of mouth. So you generate that word of mouth.
And then you put a toll on the bridge, and then everybody who wants to use the bridge has to pay you to go across it. And then now you got your wealth, you got your riches and everything.
So you can do that. So I'm not against. There's all kinds of marketing tactics. That
I was just joking about
because
that.
I was actually thinking about that. That's one of the reasons I brought up the bridge, is to have this toll concept, right? Now, someone might say, no, you should never have toll on the bridge, and other people say, well, you have to have a toll on the bridge to monetize it. Well, if you knew that, if you had this guiding principle, right, this transparency, and you go, we're charging a toll, but part of the money of that toll goes to the company, and part of it goes into a fund in order to make the next bridge you have to build less expensive, or the next utility you have to build less expensive. And this is made clear to everyone who's using the toll. They can clearly see that the money that they're paying on this bridge makes it more likely that they get the second bridge and that tunnel, or what have you. Well, people will be happy to use it. People will be thrilled. They'll be like, I'm paying this amount. I know it's a marginal amount that's going to the company for them to make their money, but I know this other amount is going to help me, right? It's how people feel about air miles, right? They're like, oh, they're happy to pay for the thing if they know they're also getting something else on the backside of it as well. So if even a toll can be fine if you come at it through the proper adventure marketing lens. I
I
think a
always
lot about
wondered
these things,
why.
Peter. I think a lot about these things.
I could tell. I always wondered why there isn't something like you, like for example, Apple. Why there isn't like a set amount, like a percentage of whatever you purchase at Apple that goes to like schools in your city. You know, because then it would make it like if I'm in the store and I want to buy a tablet, and I know if I buy this iPad that 1% goes to schools in my in Montreal, well then I'm going to be more interested in buying that thing.
That's right.
Like I know at the end of the year, the end of the quarter, whatever. Companies, they issue out the checks and give to charities and things like that. But sometimes, I don't know about you, but for me, sometimes donating to charity can seem so nebulous. But if I know this amount is going to schools in my neighborhood, this amount is going to food banks in my neighborhood, whatever, then it feels more personal, more connected
so
to it.
you brought up another thing I've been thinking about. So it's exactly that. So you go, this behavior that companies have of donating to charity. We all know that donating to charity, you get to write that off your taxes. So it's a way of earning more money, getting clout, and paying less in taxes. And when people do that, we sort of feel like it's a dirty type of donation. Like it doesn't really generate the word of mouth because they weren't really doing it because of this overarching goal, this transparency.
Mm-hmm.
But there's this company called Fluvog, which I talk a lot about, the shoe company, and they do charity events all the time. And the CEO talks about all the time. They'll ask him, why are you doing so many charity events? He goes, well, we don't really do a lot of advertising, right? They do these charity events, and the charity always benefits the community, right? It's the community that they're investing in. And then so the community is more likely to come out to the charity event. He goes, so we get visibility because people come in. Some people buy the shoes. We help we give money to charity as a tax write-off, and we also help the community that we're in, that our businesses are in. So it's like he was saying, well, it's a win-win all around. Like, I'm not going to hide the fact that I get a tax write-off for it. It just makes it more likely that I'm going to do more charity events. But I'll make sure that those charity events help the community and that you all know what I'm doing. So people love going to these charity events and seeing the I mean, it works with the idea that they focus so much on value, transparency, and reputation that their product is unquestionably good, right? Once you do that, once it's clear why you're doing what you're doing, you're solving the problem as best as you can, and you have a stellar reputation, well, all of a sudden now you can do things like charity, right, in the right context, and it generates word of mouth. So he goes, well, I might as well do that than pay for a Super Bowl commercial ad.
Of course.
Yeah.
Value, transparency, and reputation. That's what we're talking about here. And those are the 3 pillars of adventure marketing. I know that we are definitely going to be doing more videos on this topic. We're going to be doing videos on specifically each one of these things. Just like we did for word of mouth, we'll do value, transparency, and reputation on their own. But I know this video you wanted to give you wanted to give a sort of overview of this idea, which I think you've done. But is there something else that you want to mention here in this video?
Yeah. So the only thing I would want to mention is that some people might say, well, you've really, sort of reductionist just to reduce everything to these three principles, right? You're talking about complex systems from anything from a human life to a multinational company. How can you say that these three principles are all that's needed? Well, often complex systems are made stable through fundamentals, through first principles, right? Excuse me. Through first principles. So the idea is that I have not seen any higher order concept that cannot be generated out of this. So we were talking about word of mouth. So value, reputation, and transparency together can create word of mouth. But just to give you a little preview of what's going to come down the road a few months from now, the interplay between transparency and value provides guidance. And the interplay between transparency and reputation actually creates honor, type of respect. And the interplay between reputation and value demonstrates competence. And then there's interplays between these things and so on. And so they create higher order concepts come from these irreducible principles. You cannot get past the point of value, right? There's no such thing as a business that is not trying to solve a problem. Right? Even if the problem they're trying to solve is how much money can they make for themselves, there's no such thing. right? Even holding companies are solving the problem of having a holding company, of having a shell company, right? So you can't get past that. It's irreducible. Transparency. If the behavior that you are exhibiting, if people find out about what you're doing, and makes it less likely for them to interact with you, this is fundamental. You can't get past that point, right? If for the reputation, the history that you're creating, that from actually running your business, you cannot get past the history. You cannot get past that reputation. And if you tell someone that your business has been around for the last 10 years and they have zero way of seeing anything that you've done in the past, well, they're less likely to hire you, right? You cannot get past these fundamental points. Whereas higher order things like I said, competence, honor, and guidance, and what have you, those fail easily. Right? You cannot demonstrate competence if you don't have a history, a reputation. You cannot demonstrate any type of guidance or leadership if you don't have any view of the future, transparency, a guide in life for the future. There's no such thing, right? How are you going to lead someone someplace if you don't know where you're going and you can't tell them where you'll be going? So, although it seems like it might be reductionist, these 3 points I found cannot be eliminated, and there's nothing else I found that needs to be added to it in order to complete this holy trinity. So I guess that's all I would say at the end.
I like that. I like how you threw in holy trinity there. Holy, that word holy.
Hey, we're talking about story here, man. We're talking about archetypes.
You're being transparent about how you view your role here. I like that. Holy. We'll get you a nice robe, a nice hat, maybe a staff. You can play the role of the wise old man, sage on the side of the road.
That's right.
But I love it. I do think there's something holy about what's being presented here, in the sense that it's fundamental and that it's extremely useful and what's the word I'm looking for? Edifying. It really builds us up. I was actually I think we're about ready to wrap this up, right?
Yeah.
I think what you provided here is a ton of meat on the bones, a ton of protein on the bones. But I was gonna ask you, hey, I want something practical. I want to know how practically this could help a business. Like, this is intellectual, this is absolutely fantastic, but practically what can be provided. But as I was reviewing what you were saying in my mind, I thought I would issue the practical notice here, if you don't mind,
Sure,
don't mind me stepping on your adventure marketing.
No, go for it.
What you're describing here are 3 fundamental principles, right? It might seem like you're a reductionist. Someone might claim it to be reductionist, but they're fundamental principles. And the principles are necessary in order to build a belief system, in order for you to operate in the world. You want fundamental principles. One of the great things about having a fundamental principle or fundamental principles is that it makes your work more efficient and more effective, in the sense that once you know what your guiding principles are, then you're no longer wasting time trying to figure out what behavior you should adopt, because you will eliminate any behaviors that aren't in line with your principles. So having principles actually makes things a lot faster. Just yesterday, I was asking you, I had someone who I felt maybe owed me some money, right? And so I said, hey, Tom, I'm working on this project. Maybe instead of them giving me this money, I could tell them, hey, you go ahead and spread word of mouth about this project that I'm doing instead of giving me this money, right? We'll just exchange this for that. And you said, well, no, don't do that, because you're paying for word of mouth. Like, you're paying for a false word of mouth. Like, if they're going to talk about your idea, it should be genuine. It should come from the fact that they genuinely perceive a value in what you're doing, and not that they're trading. You don't want to pay influencers on Instagram, on TikTok, in order to get your word out. You want that to be generated organically. So you told me, Peter, no. And I spend time thinking about, should I ask for this trade? How should I do it? What kind of way do I want them to trade it? But all that time is wasted because that behavior isn't in line with the fundamental principles. This isn't in line with the VTR, the adventure marketing that you talk about, that we try to adopt here at Happy for a Change. And so I don't have to go down the road of trading tit for tat for them to mention me. I can just move on to other things. Makes it more efficient and makes it clearer what actions I should take.
Absolutely. And we'll, in the next, at least in the next 3 videos, I'm really going to delve into far more practical things like how, okay, you know, we give examples of a product, service, information, or entertainment, and go in these four circumstances, like how do we actually, what's the next step that we take? And I think, you know, you're really gonna like those because they're really like building blocks, and you're gonna see like you're just saying, we're trying to put these principles into action at Happy for a Change, and these videos are like that, right? I'm not trying to hide anything in these videos. I'm telling you everything I would tell someone inside of a training session. And so we're trying to provide value as best as we can. We're trying to be transparent of how we want to go about it, and we're trying to build a reputation. So you'll see us implement these ideas. I mean, we'll falter along the way, but I'm sure as long as we keep our eye on where we want to go, that we'll be a very clear example of following adventure marketing.
I really like that. Fantastic. Thank you, Tom Hartman, so much for your time here. If you have any questions, absolutely leave them below. Look, if you post a question down below, something that relates to your business, something that relates to whatever project you're working on, you're guaranteed to get an answer. You're guaranteed to get an answer. So post your comments or questions down below. We'll probably be doing some type of webinar in short order that will allow you to ask your questions live. We can have a conversation. But let us know that you're interested in what's going on by liking the video and putting a comment down below and asking any question that you have. Tom loves getting your questions. It will never stop. Probably the webinar we do will go for 6 hours because as long as there are questions, Tom is going to keep going. But definitely post that down below. All right, Tom, you're absolutely fantastic.
I know. Thank you very much.
You thought a lot about adventure marketing, and I know I love talking to you about it one-on-one.
This is a tip of the iceberg.
And it's so great to get it down on video. Yeah. Tom Hartman, you can find him at
I Love Tom Hartman on everything, but really on Twitter. That's where you want to contact me.
And you mentioned articles on your website?
Yeah, you can go to tomhartman.ca and you'll find, I'm actually starting to post the articles there. We have a lot of stuff that we're going to be posting on our Patreon page and then eventually our YouTube page. But if you like to read more long form articles, you'll find more of a la Tom flavor on tomhartman.ca.
Excellent. Fantastic. That's that.
All right, man. Talk to you later.
Hey there, thank you so much for watching this video. Love your time, love your energy. Feel free to post a comment or question down below if you've got anything going on. Like this video so that we know you liked it and so it helps other people watch this video. If you thought there was value here, let's help spread that value and share this video on your social media or wherever you like to if you think it was useful. Happy for Change is on a mission in order to improve the world. We do that by helping the individual and we also do that by helping business. So you can check out Happy for Change on a Facebook page, happyforchange.com, and you can communicate with us there. Thank you so much for watching the video.